Hey, Brittany, I want to talk to you about what's happening here in Australia. While the President of Israel, Isaac Herzog, has been here in Australia to mourn and honour the victims of the Bondi terror attack, activists have taken to the streets in protest, including former Australian of the Year Grace Tame. She has been chanting from Gadigal to Gaza, globalise the intifada at an anti-Israel protest. Listen to this.
From Gadigal to Gaza, globalise the intifada.
And I would go as far as saying, viewers, that was with the deepest passion and fury. I don't think it was just a sort of under-breath chant. I think it was with rage and fury. She was getting the message across with all the power, and she could muster in a way in which to impart the way she feels.
So while Grace Tame was chanting this, calling, of course, for the elimination of the State of Israel, many members of the Jewish community were locked inside this speaking address from Israeli President Isaac Herzog because of these violent protests that were going on outside. Brittany, do you have a message for Grace Tame?
Sure. I mean, such a cute girl, but what a foul thing to say, and to be chanting and to use her platform to basically say to wipe out a country that leads the world in cancer research, in technological advancements, in medical research, in terms of medical devices, saving so many lives around the world. Israel is leading in the world in these components that I just said, helping so many people around the world. Why do you want it wiped off from the planet? Why? Because that's basically what this phrase means. Right. I think that instead of bashing her and saying it's wrong to say, why not go to Israel? Why not do a little education? Educate yourself. Go see the history. Go meet the people. That's what I feel the president of Israel should really be inviting her and inviting a lot of these people who are anti-Semitic and want to claim Israel should be wiped off the earth.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at the chronological events relative to this incident with a timeline. The context before the incident. Israel President Isaac Herzog visits to Australia prompted protests in Sydney and Melbourne with heightened tension around language seen as inciting hatred and violence, which it did. New South Wales political discussion was already active about tightening hate speech laws, including consideration of outlawing the phrase globalise the intifada, which is an anti-Semitic annihilation of the Jews chant. The incident, the moment the controversy is conceived, Monday the 9th February 2026, Sydney Town Hall at the pro-Palestinian protest. Grace Tame spoke at the rally, criticised Australia as a so-called democracy for punishing protesters while welcoming a war criminal, which isn't true, and then led the chant from Gilgal to Gaza, globalise the intifada. And I have to say, viewers, she did it with fury and with passion and with intention and with rage. The footage and reporting show the rally involved clashes with police and subsequent public dispute over police conduct. Now, the immediate reactions, the first wave, there was public backlash and political condemnation, and it followed quickly with multiple MPs and commentators characterising the chant as inflammatory and calling for consequences. And this is apparently what the hate speech laws are for, but they haven't really done anything. And then Jewish community voices and others described intifada as historically linked to violent uprisings and therefore experienced the slogan as a hateful or violent call, not an abstract resistance or poetry. And part of the problem with the protest going bad was the protesters started to march towards the venue where the Israeli Prime Minister was addressing the Australian Israeli community, 7,000 people. It was so vulnerable that they couldn't let the Israeli people leave at the end of the meeting. So Tame's response, this was the second wave, and it was clarification plus defence. Tame responded publicly saying she does not support violence, anti-Semitism or hatred. Well, she doesn't know what she's talking about then, and argued critics were twisting her words. No, we're not if you know the meaning of them, Miss Tame. She emphasised the Arabic meaning of intifada as shaking off, and reframed the issue as distraction from broader injustices and police conduct. No. Shaking off means removing from. That means shaking off Jews from the world. Basically, if you want to get down to the meat and potatoes of it, shaking them off, getting rid of them, moving off. The wide accountability debate spans third wave. This was the third wave. Systems and institutions started to surface, and debate broadened from Tame's words to police conduct, including controversy about police actions at the protest, including the disruption of prayer lines. That was Muslims who just decided, and viewers, just let me say, I spoke to my Muslim friends straight off the cuff, individually. I took to two of them and I said, what was your opinion on the Muslims just plopping themselves down in the middle of a restricted area? And they said it's on them. They said we weren't there, but they weren't supposed to do that, and so it's on them. So they got what was just for them. Nothing to do with prayer. See, religious people like to make a spectacle for themselves. They like to get brownie points for their religious actions, and Jesus said don't do that, right? The people of the book, the Christians, they're not supposed to do that, but the Muslims seem to do it. They seem to do it everywhere. I've seen a Muslim just crouch down in front of a bus. They had to move him from the front of the bus because it suited him to pray. I've worked in bricklaying teams where there was a Muslim and he'd leave to pray. Well, that's not fair. No, it's pretty out of order. So she complained about that, but the police were right and calls for apologies and an inquiry. This was her response. She wanted apologies and an inquiry. It's reporting indicated police were not investigating Tame for the chant, even while the phrase is politically contested. Well, it's a murderous terrorism phrase. Okay, so what the accountability question actually is. There are two separate questions people keep mashing together because that's what we do, isn't it? We love a mess and we want to work it out. Number one, the speech ethic question. Was it responsible for a prominent public figure to lead that chant? Given its common associations and foreseeable impact, which is terrorism. And number two, awards and institution question. Does this rise to the threshold where the Australian of the Year honour should be reviewed or revoked? Well, leads us to the question, who has formal authority over Australia of the Year status? And that's a question. The National Australia Day Council, NADC, has a documented withdrawal of award policy covering review and revoke. Excuse me, viewers. Okay, what the NADC policy actually says, and this is relevant triggers and the process. This is the relevant triggers and the process. Relevant grounds that could be argued, not saying they're met, just that they exist. The NADC Board may revoke if, in its opinion, the recipient has behaved or acted in a manner that has brought the Australian of the Year awards into disrepute. Well, I think she's done that. But anyway, and the process basics. It's not, so it's not pure vibes. This is the process basics. If NADC becomes aware of a reason for review, The CEO notifies the award alumnus, specifies the issue and gives a right to respond, typically within 30 days. Then NADC briefs its board and determines an outcome, which is notified in writing. So yes, there's an actual mechanism. It's just not talkback radio. It's actual. She can get her Australian of the Year thing annulled, and I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it is there. It can happen. So point number 3, key accountability findings based on what's publicly established. What's clearly established from the reporting is Tame did lead the chant at the protest and with ferocity, and it was recorded and reported. The phrase is publicly contested and internationally contested for those that are not into terrorism and murder and suicide bombings and stuff. Some see it as solidarity, resistance language. Others see it as tied to violence and intimidation. Tame's response includes explicit denials of supporting violence, anti-Semitism, plus a reframing toward alleged police misconduct and broader political aims. So what is not established, or at least not confirmed in the sources above? Any formal legal finding that her words constitute hate speech or incitement, and reporting indicates police weren't investigating her. And any official NADC decision, revoke, review, commencement, as of these reports, it doesn't seem to have started or is happening at the moment. So the conclusion, the human parts to avoid. If the standard is legal incitement, the available reporting does not show that threshold being met or pursued. Police reportedly were not investigating her. If the standard is public responsibility, then leading globalise intifada at a charged protest in a charged way with predictably combustible possibilities, even if she intended shaking off oppression, the phrase has widely understood links to violent episodes and foreseeable effects, and the foreseeable effects was to inflame, polarise and cause legitimate fear or anger among many observers. So if the standard is, should her Australian of the Year honour be reviewed, the NADC policy gives a pathway, and the only plausible clause is bringing the awards into disrepute. Whether that's satisfied is ultimately a judgment call by the NADC Board, not a mathematical proof. So the net result, viewers, this looks like an ethical judgment and repudiation or governance issue far more than a criminal one, unless new facts emerge. And humans will continue to treat it as a tribal sport regardless. I don't think she should be doing that. Whatever happens to her Australian of the Year thing, I think she's pretty well... regardless of that, put that aside, I think she's made an unfortunate move personally for herself. Hopefully she'll get through this unscathed. But that's the overview of the Grace Tame, globalise the intifada, from Gilgal to wherever she said, from Gilgal to Gaza, globalise the intifada. All the best, Miss Tame. Big mistake.